So learning this, I think it gave me such an awareness, because all of these things that I was like, that were just toxic things that I was doing that I didn't recognize were a product of ADHD. I could not check my mail to save my life. I couldn't. I had piles and piles and piles of mail, and I never, ever, ever would do it. And then email. I had messages from people, from YouTube comments and stuff, Twitch comments. I just couldn't check it. So my email was at 20,000 and my Ask Fanatiq email was at 6,800. I just couldn't do it, man. It's just so difficult. The menial task of going through, I gotta shred it. I gotta decide which ones are thrown in the trash. Oh, this one's sensitive, I need to shred. Oh, I gotta respond to this one. All that, I just couldn't do it.
1,527,503 prayer requests. I better manifest some coffee.
I think about tickets. I had to pay my registration this year, and my registration was so crazy because I had 2 tickets on it that I had the money for. I could have paid them off, but of course I put it off, and now they're more, and then I'm still like just ignoring it. I'm gonna have to deal with it one day, and I just don't. And so then they just put it into my registration. So my registration ended up being almost double what it was supposed to be, because now I gotta pay off these tickets. There's days where I wake up and I know I'm supposed to stream right now. I should be streaming. I got some subscribers and I know they want to see me play, and I should do it, and then I just don't. It's just the problem.
Nope, 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 nope.
And so what I started recognizing is so many of my friends had ADHD. A bunch of my friends started getting tested and getting diagnosed and things like that. I had a core group of people, some of my closest friends that I hang out with in Discord, that I talk to on a regular basis, they started getting diagnosed. One of them, he knew something was wrong, but he just went ahead and finally got diagnosed, and it was like, yep, I have this. And he started describing it, and I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like me to some degree. But then we had differences. Then one of my second closest friends, he got it. And the third, then I'm sure he won't mind, Knives got diagnosed. And so then it's like, man, all of my close friends all have ADHD. And it just started hitting me.
Open your eyes.
Like, oh my goodness, it makes so much sense, because the people who function like I do are the people that I'm more able to get along with. Because if I'm on a hyper focus and then somebody decides like, no, I'm good and bored, I want to do something else, it's like, okay, we'll go do that other thing, and then after that I probably will never want to do that thing with you again, because I know that when it starts getting good, or just when I'm into it, you're not going to want to, you won't have the stamina to keep up. So then I just don't want to do it with you anymore.
Check, please.
So then those kind of people I don't tend to hang around very long. So the more I started having this realization, it was clicking. And so one day I recently had a birthday, and I decided to spend it in Vegas. I went to Vegas, I spent some time with my friends there, and then to Arizona with Matt and Heather. And while I was there in Vegas, I'm talking to one of my boys about one of my closest friends, and I'm saying, I'm pretty sure he has ADHD. He doesn't really believe in ADHD. And the more we start talking about it, I'm explaining to him what ADHD is, because he's like, I don't know much about it, but I don't really even know if it's even a thing. I'm explaining it to him, and he goes, oh, okay, then that does kind of make sense. And I'm like, and here's how it functions. And I just start describing aspects of my life, but knowing that my friend would have experienced it too, because he has ADHD like I do. And the more I explain, the more he starts saying, okay, yeah, you're probably right, he has it. And then eventually he gets to a point where he's like, I'm 100% convinced he has it.
You son of a... I'm in.
That day we go and we pick him up and we go get lunch and breakfast and something, and then we drop him off, and then he calls us right away and he's just like, hey, I need you guys to come back. And we're like, what? And he's like, okay, so we come back, and he's like, yeah, I left my wallet in the car. And so he starts laughing. He's like, you can say it. I'm like, yeah, you know that's ADHD. And my other friend is laughing. He's like, yeah, dang, I think you are right. And the more I start describing, he finally, okay, I'm 150% sure he has it. and because we have all these similarities, and I'm describing all the things to him and why they're dysfunctional, why it happens, what the solutions are, because I know it for myself. And the more I explained, the more it made sense. So then it gave me the mentality of starting to try to develop an accountability partner. So I talked to my boy, and I call him up, and I'm like, hey, I want to do the mail. And I just asked, I said, hey, you got a bunch of mail backlogged, right? And he goes, yeah, of course. He was like, it's almost embarrassing. And I was like, okay, good, because I do too. So we should do the mail at 5 o'clock. I said, yeah, because I saw this video where they talked about doubling, where it's like, if you're doing something with another person, it's so much easier to focus for ADHD people. Just doing a task that involves another person.
Wonder Twin powers activate.
That makes you able to do it, as opposed to doing it by yourself, where you're likely to get distracted or just not really feel like doing it. That accountability helps a lot. So I was like, hey, let's do this. And he was like, okay. So we go and we do it, and we start knocking it out. Eventually he had to go, but he got most of it. And I told him, hey, I can see my desk. And he was like, oh yeah, I see my kitchen table. And I was like, man, it's just crazy. So I already knew that he didn't really do his mail like that just because I know about how ADHD impacts people. And I knew that my friend in Vegas didn't either. And I told him, and then he was just like, yeah, man, he does an adult. And I'm like, that's not really what it is. I'm explaining it. We got a ticket that weekend when I was still in the explaining phase. And so my other friend was going to deal with it. I said, hey, don't let him deal with it. Because if you let him deal with the ticket, he's going to forget that it exists. And then it's going to like double in price and triple in price until it becomes a really big problem because he's going to put it off for months. So you have to deal with it right now. Or you can just deal with it whenever you have the time, but don't let him do it. And he just starts laughing because he's just like, wow, I've had so many tickets do that. And so the more we're talking, the more it starts to become crystal clear. So when I see it in all of my friends and I see it in all, whatever, and it just started really, really dawning on me the impact. And so what it did was it motivated me. It made me say, okay, if I see it in him and I see it in different friends, then I got to be more productive. So when I started the mail, it just, everything cascaded. Because from that point, I was like, okay, now that I did the mail, let me start unpacking these boxes. I've lived in this place where I'm living for 4 years. I still have boxes from my previous place that I've never unpacked of like toiletries. I found like lotion and body soap and unused loofahs and toothpaste packs and just all of these things that I've just never even opened some of them. I found a microdermabrasion set, just all of this stuff. And it's like, man, I never unpacked any of it. I've replaced these things. I bought brand new like lotion and all these things. And it's just like, I had this box here that I just never cleaned. That I never like sorted out, that came from underneath my bathroom sink at my previous residence. So it's just like, I started going through that, and I had like an electronics bag, and I went through that. Then I had like a bag of cords, threw away the ones that, and I'm just doing all of these things. And I get to my email, and I knock all my emails down. Like my Ask Fanatiq email is now at like 200, and the other one is like 6,000 from like 20,000, right? And it's just like, okay, so I do that. Then I'm like checking my messages. I'm getting rid of some of these like subscriptions that I don't need. I'm just doing all of this like productive stuff. And I realized, man, it's just a matter of when I wake up, the first thing I have to do is be productive, and it fixes it.